Hi guys. I thought Samantha did a terrific job sort of leading a discussion on the Bill of Rights. And I think what emerged was how confusing the specifics of the first 10 amendments of the Constitution really are, how subjective in many ways they are. I mean, on the issue of gun ownership or search and seizure and what can be used as evidence and so on, freedom of religion, at what point are you actually, in terms of freedom of religion, um, interfering with someone's right to worship as opposed to trying to separate church and state so that the government is not officially endorsing a religion? When does that happen? Where does that happen? And I guess I want to make one point very clear to you, and that is this: constant reinterpretation. Constant reinterpretation is the way in which we in the United States make the decision as to whether or not you have been arrested and properly processed. For example, the Miranda rights, you have the right to remain silent, and so on. There was a point in time when any mistake that a policeman made in arresting someone when reading the Miranda rights, any mistake, using the wrong word in there somewhere or something, would result in a case being thrown out because we were extremely sensitive to proper procedure. Then there was a period of increased crime. A lot of cases were dismissed of some very violent criminals, drug dealers, and others, where the case was thrown out because the policeman read one little piece of the Miranda rights wrong. And society started to reinterpret how to apply Miranda rights. The courts began to rule differently. And very soon after that, we essentially became more generous in saying, if you generally told the person that they have the right to remain silent and generally told them that they have the right to an attorney, that's good enough. So on all of those Bill of Rights issues, those first 10 amendments to the Constitution, they are not frozen in place. They evolve as society changes and as we change our views in terms of how those things ought to be applied. And on the issue of freedom of speech, I think it became pretty clear that if somebody says something that you don't like, you want to basically tell them that they don't have the right to say that. Well, a constitutional provision for freedom of speech really only protects people who want to say something that other people don't like. You don't really need it if somebody says, hey, you guys are wonderful, or it's a nice day, or I love the military. They only apply when people say something that is offensive and that, in fact, irritates people, because then we have a tendency to say, well, there's freedom of speech, but not when they're saying that kind of thing. So it's a very difficult principle to accept, this principle of freedom of speech. Read the chapter. There's a lot of good stuff in there.